Rev up your engines!
There we go. 3D printing has reached new insane heights. For a real fancy McLaren, they now have 3D printed wheels that weigh a little bit less so you can accelerate faster. The less mass is in the wheel, the less resistance, the faster you're going to accelerate. Now, it isn't going to affect the top end speed. It's still going to go the same top end. It's just going to get there faster. What they come out with is they have these carbon fiber barrels for the wheel and then titanium spokes that are printed with a 3D machine. Well, now this isn't your normal 3D printer that's using plastic resin. You're not going to be printing these in your house. This is done on a very fancy machine that's using titanium to print the spokes. So you try making one at home out of that plastic resin and put it on something that's got 800 horsepower, they'd break off as soon as you started to accelerate. It's called direct metal laser melting, where the lasers melt the stuff and then they print them up. I mean, we're talking about really complex actual space age stuff here, so don't think anytime soon you're going to be able to get printed titanium wheels for your, Corvette or something. It's going to be a long time before the public actually gets us, if ever. It's probably so ineffective that no one's going to do it or anything, but they made one for a McLaren, one of those super expensive race cars. That's kind of interesting that they can now print titanium wheels. Who knows what they're going to come up with next? But like I said, at what cost? Orange Oratory says, Scotty, I found a 2006 Subaru WRX 4-cylinder turbo at an auction with 133,000 miles. And it needs new front clip. Forget it. One, never buy an auction car if you're going to drive it yourself. They're in an auction because there's something wrong with them. That thing's been smashed up. On top of it, it's a turbo boxer engine. The engine might be on its way out too. Don't ever buy a car at auction that's bashed in. The only guys that should buy auction cars are pros. I got friends that are pros. They go to an auction and they got maybe $8,000. They might buy 4 or 5 cars for $8,000, and then they turn and sell each one of them for $4 or $5,000. Even if they get a lemon, they're still coming out ahead. And since they're pros, they almost always have a little contract going with the auctions that say, well, if a mechanic says that this needs more repairs than what you paid, we'll give you credit. You give us the car back, and then we'll give you credit at the auction. Now, they don't get their money back, but they get credit, and then they go buy another one. So it's a business, and they can make money doing it. But there's too much gambling involved in you buying one, especially one that's got wreck work, and that's a Subaru Turbo with that kind of mileage. Stay away from auctions, especially Subarus that have been wrecked at auctions. Joe Bob 71 says, 07 Ford Edge automatic transmission. Put it in reverse, it doesn't do anything. I put it in park and back in reverse and it works. Your transmission is starting to go out. And generally when it does that, it means that the oil pump is starting to go out. Automatic transmissions, at least most of the ones I've ever worked on, are like engines. They got oil pumps in them. The engine oil pump pumps oil to the engine to lubricate it. The automatic transmission oil pump pumps the fluid to build up pressure because it shifts by fluid pressure dynamics. So it's got to have pressure built up so it works. And from my experience with those things, when the pump starts to go, that's exactly what happens. You put it in reverse, it won't work. Put it back into park, warm it up a little, and put it back into reverse, it starts to work. If you're lucky, it can be somewhat clogged. You can change the filter, change the fluid, pray that fixes it. If it does, great, it was somewhat clogged up. If it doesn't change it at all, that means that it's just starting to go out. 13-year-old Ford Edge, do you really want to put, 3 to 5 in or doing a transmission over? But hey, change the filter and fluid, you never know. Sometimes I've done that and they go back to normal for quite some time. Cars 98 says, do you think a Lexus LS can go up to 300,000 miles? I know, I've had customers with 500,000 miles on them. Here's the thing, those are highly engineered luxury vehicles, and they can go pretty fast. So, if you don't drive uber fast all the time, they can basically last forever if you change the oil regularly. You get something that can go 140 miles an hour. Let's say you barely drive 70. It's going, less than half speed. So, of course, it's going to last a long time. It's like guys with motorcycles. He said, well, can this motorcycle last me? And I explained to him, okay, you got a motorcycle, and that motorcycle can go 180 miles an hour. Let's say the fastest you ever go is maybe 80 miles an hour. That thing was so over-designed to go 180 miles an hour. If you're driving around 50, 60 all the time, if you don't smash it up, it can basically last forever because it's designed to go super fast. And if you don't go go super fast. It can really last a long time. And those Lexuses, yes, change the oil regularly, maintain them. They can last a really long time because they're designed so well. Almost all of them are made in Japan, where they're still making the best vehicles. Even the Japanese, the ones they're making in the United States, they've had problems with some of the stuff that they've done here and had to have recalls on engines and things. But the ones that they make in Japan, they're better made. And most of the Lexuses are still made in Japan. Jerome B16 says, Scotty, I need help. People tell me I need mental help because I bought a used Infiniti, a blown engine. I pay around $4,000 for it. You are crazy. If that thing had an engine that was running, it's not even worth $4,000 with 140,000 miles on it. As I tell people, Infinitis are endless money pits as they age with high mileage. And of course, their quality's been going downhill because Infinitis are just fancy Nissans. Renault owns them. Their quality's been going downhill for a couple of decades now. That is not a vehicle that you buy. You just don't buy those things used. I mean, if somebody handed one free and it ran, but I mean, that thing had a blown engine. You shouldn't even have bought it in the first place. I wouldn't even take a car like that personally if someone handed it to me with a blown engine. Says, no, I don't want it. I just have to have it towed to a junkyard. I don't want to mess around with it. It's not worth the bother. Always use your head when it comes to a vehicle. Don't use your emotions. Don't do something like, oh, look, it's a beautiful Jaguar. It just needs a little few repairs. No, it probably needs all kinds of expensive repairs. Don't buy a car like that. But, hey, at least it's a lesson learned. But do make it a lesson learned. Don't ever do it again. Oshpet says, my 2000 Ford Mustang 3.8. When the car's parked and I start it, it smells like gas on the outside of the rear. Two things you can check. One, as soon as you start it, quick go back to the tailpipe or have somebody else start it and stand by the tailpipe and smell it there. If the smell's coming out of the tailpipe, that means your car's running rich and you got a problem like a leaking fuel injector. For some reason, the car's flooding out, and then when you start it up, there's too much gas in the engine and it's going to burn out. But the other thing is, let's say it's not the tailpipe itself, it's just the whole general back area. Cars have Evap systems, and instead of the gasoline vapors like when I was a young mechanic were just vented through the cap to the atmosphere, that's seen as pollution these days. It goes through the system, the evap system, and goes through the charcoal canister, which is supposed to filter out the gasoline, and then fresh air comes out and you don't smell it. If that charcoal canister is bad or the evap canister vent valve is stuck open, you'll also smell the gas. So you want to check that too. Yay, Hair 626 says, Scotty, I have a Chrysler 300M. It won't start. I don't know what's wrong with it. It is a new battery. When a car doesn't start, watch my video, fixing a car that cranks but doesn't start up. You can see absolutely everything to test it. The basics are, you want to see first, does it have fuel and does it have spark? So the easiest thing to do is you go to any auto parts store for like $2. Buy a can of starting fluid. Take the air filter cover off. Have someone crank the engine while you spray starting fluid into the hull. If it starts and dies, odds are you got a bad fuel pump and you could have that tested. The fuel pump will be bad. If it won't start when you're starting fluid in, then what you want to do is just take out one of the spark plug wires and put a spark plug on it and ground it against the engine. Have somebody crank it and see if it's sparking. If it's not sparking, then you've lost your ignition system. And common things for that are a bad crankshaft position sensor or a bad ignition coil. You got to figure out why it's not starting. Like I say, watch my video, fixing a car that cranks but doesn't start up. If you try all those things and they're all actually working, then you probably have the worst thing on earth, which would be like a blown head gasket. Something's blown inside the engine and the engine will never start again unless it's fixed. But normally, it's one of the tests that's in that video, so check that out first. Crazy Outlaw says, is a 2008 Toyota Solara convertible with 55,000 miles and one owner as good as the Camrys? Oh yeah, they were great vehicles, you know. They're pretty much the same engine, the V6 Camry engine, transmission, brakes. They were just a sedan. They failed because people were going either four-door or now SUVs, and then they stopped making them. 2008 was the last year that they made the Toyota Solaras. If you like it, you know, they're great vehicles. Now, some people think that they're really ugly with the top down because of their design, that they just think they're ugly. Now, if you like the look of it, hey, go ahead and buy one. You find one with 55,000 miles, it's got tons of life. I just worked on one yesterday, and it had 260,000 miles, and it still ran like a clock. It can last a long time. Just kind of a marketing failure with Toyota. They were great cars. They didn't have any particular problems, really. Shma says, Scotty, is there a car camera or something like I can use without the need to hardwire it to my car? So if my car's hit, it'll take a picture of it? Oh, yeah, there's zillions of them. Go to eBay, go to Amazon, start Googling it. You'll see there are tons of them out there. How they work are, you want to get one that has the built-in G sensor. And what happens is, if somebody hits the car, it bumps, the G sensor turns the camera on and films the whole thing. Just look up and find them. I've seen them from $50 to $95. Look at the reviews, pick the ones with the best reviews. But yes, they are. And you can just plug them into the cigarette lighter. You don't want to hardwire something, you just plug it in the cigarette lighter. Lithium-ion batteries that hold the charge for a reasonable amount of time. So as long as you drive the car a lot, it'll still have enough battery power to take a picture if somebody hits it while they're going. Now, if you're going to do that, my advice is get the dual cameras that have front and back, because you know you're going to get in the front or the back. If the camera's pointed front and it films it in there in the back, it's no good. So get the dual camera set up for that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.